Today I'm excited to begin a new bushveld painting with this epic sunset as the backdrop. As usual, I draw my inspiration from many references, which in turn forces me to use my artistic license to the limit of where I can take this. Let's begin. I'm Richard, and welcome to this demonstration video. For my color palette, I've chosen quite a variety of colors to begin this painting, starting with titanium white, blue-gray, ultramarine blue, cobalt blue, cobalt violet, brilliant rose, primary cyan, violet gray, cadmium orange, primary yellow, buff titanium, terre verte, and Van Dyke brown. I've decided to start this demonstration with a question in mind. Why do I paint landscapes? Why do you paint what you paint? And that is a good question. In my early days as an artist, still learning the ropes, still learning techniques, you attempt any subject possible, and it made sense at the time to attempt a variety of subjects, to learn a plethora of new skills. So I proceeded to paint everything from birds, buildings, objects, landscapes, figures, and abstracts. As the years went by, I got proficient in all the different subject matter and taught the skills to my students. But I always felt something is missing. Yes, I was getting praise and a pat on the back from my mentor, but somehow I felt frustrated. It felt like I was just skimming the surface. As years went by, I became more aware of what I was drawn to, rather than just the academic aspect of art. I began to have an affinity for mood and color more than I'd like to admit, and I loved scenes with atmospheric space and perspective. I was finding myself interested in all the weird and quirky designs of nature and the outdoors had to offer in all its purity. So my focus gradually shifted away from an eclectic approach to a more specific and focused approach to the point of obsession. I was now painting with panoramic shaped canvases, and I was really lucky at the time. We made our own canvases, and I could experiment with any size and shape of canvas I wished. The sky was the limit. Gradually, I no longer painted like the teacher who taught me. I had other ideas. So I took off in my own direction, and at that point, I was in process mode. I was searching for my voice, my edge, and everything was just landscapes, mountains, rivers, clouds, trees, rocks, the grasses, the roads creating perspective. I was diving in deep, and this was a wonderful time of self-discovery for me as an artist. You see, no one can find your voice for you. You as an artist have to take up the courage yourself and discover your own uniqueness. Stand out. No one sees the world quite like you do. They can teach you a bunch of techniques and a bunch of theories, but after all of that, you have to find your own way. Art is a big world to explore, almost too big. And in a sea of ideas, you have to draw something out. You have to choose. And for me, I chose with my heart. I painted what my soul inside of me started to scream out I must paint. And I did exactly that. So now my question is to you. What makes you paint what you paint? What is your edge? Hit me in the comments section below and let's have a conversation about this. We are artists and we all see the world differently, and that is what makes art so interesting. For the sky, I started off with my large synthetic hair brushes and started with a blue that is primary cyan and a lot of blue-grey with a touch of ultramarine in it. Then I painted over with cobalt violet, brilliant rose and some cadmium orange. As I was building subsequent layers of the sky, I used more intense orange reds consisting of brilliant rose, cadmium orange and some primary yellow. Also, my brush choice changed, switching to my withered hog bristle brushes to get a sweeping effect in the clouds, and then constantly softening the clouds with a dry synthetic hair brush. In my landscapes, I'm specifically drawn to trees and sunsets. And I just love how that colorful backdrop of the sky shines through the canopies of the trees, and all those negative spaces are openings like windows. It is a bit tricky to fuse the two together. You have to start with the sky first, and a sky like this one takes many layers of a variety of techniques before I paint the trees in. Then I have to strategically place those trees where I feel they will have the most impact in the picture. When I position the trees from the reference into the picture, I make careful use of negative space placing to get the right proportions and spacing between the trees and their branches. As a tip, a magical color you can use in your trees, especially dark shadow canopies of trees, is cobalt violet. Mix that in with some terre verte and a little cadmium orange, especially for an epic African sunset. Here we can see that sparkling yellow light on that horizon lending itself to depth, and I use some primary yellow and titanium white for that high keyed color. Coming back over with a lettering brush, you can really emphasize the branches and give the tree character. I find that working in a layered approach works best for trees, allowing the layers before some time to dry and working and modeling subsequent layers as you progress through the painting. Let's talk about color, more specifically for sunsets like this one. I believe that even in dark somber paintings like this, you should keep things colorful, modeled and nuanced. Even if it's dark or sunset, our eyes can still perceive color and value perfectly, and you should add this dynamic into the painting. There is still some light shining over the savanna plain, highlighting the foliage, but in a very subtle way. Also, we are not dealing with cast shadows the same way. All the colors in the backdrop of the sky will definitely have an influence on the grasses as well, and the grasses will subtly pick up the color mood in the sky. We can see oranges, reds and violets in 3 different color bands picking up light and allowing for a feeling of depth over the plains rather than a flat, almost stereotypical black creating silhouette look. In actuality, it's more nuanced than that and really allows for an infinite creative opportunities in your painting. Here we can see the receding depth in the grasses with bands of color. The light is being close to the horizon of the setting sun. As we come closer to the foreground, the faded light of the horizon has less impact and we see a band of darker grasses in the middle ground. followed by the slightly violet brown and contrasting light orange browns of the grasses in the foreground. A challenge for me in this painting was the finishing touches of the grasses in the foreground and finding the right technique to execute that part of the painting. It took me literally 3 attempts at painting this before I finally succeeded. I didn't want to compromise the overall feeling of depth across the plane, but I still wanted the grasses in the foreground to be more textured. My first attempt was a disaster, creating a dull grey and chalky look, compromising the overall effect I was looking for. Here I'm just going over and neatening up and cleaning up those branches and strengthening the contrast between the tree canopies and the backlight. Also, I added a little raw sienna with a touch of cadmium orange on the bushes by the horizon to indicate some warm light from the setting sun, and just creating more intense sky windows shimmering through the main tree. Using a mix of cadmium orange, cobalt violet and brilliant rose with a touch of Van Dyke brown, I proceed to paint a subtle highlight on the tree bark. At this point, I was working the grass in the foreground, but I felt that the foreground grasses was too chaotic and spotty in relation to the grasses in the middle ground and in the background. It was actively distracting my attention away from where I intended, so I had to rub it all out and start over. This time I proceeded more cautiously, rather focusing on the overall design and rather than getting caught up in too many details. I was proceeding to put in highlights like before, but I was using a larger hog bristle brush and not trying to create too many chaotic, distracting brush strokes like before. Finally, I can tweak those last few details. I added a small tree in the middle ground just to create some interest in that opening on the left and just slightly off balance the main trees on the right. With the lettering brush, I now proceed to add highlights to the foreground grasses and breaking up bigger shapes in the foreground with a little bit of contrast. And finally, with a lettering brush, I can tweak the foliage of the thorn trees and bring this epic painting to its conclusion. After finishing this savanna landscape, I can finally say I am happy with the outcome. Thank you for watching till the end. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share and leave a comment. Have a great day further.